Hey, Giants fans, welcome back to the Empire State Sports Report. I'm your host, Adrianna, also known as New York Giants fangirl on social media. This podcast is brought to you by Believe and FanDuel. You guys know I like to place my bets, but I always bet responsibly. And right now, if you are planning to bet on the Giants-Jets preseason game that takes place tonight, here are the odds. So the Giants are the favorites, believe it or not. They are minus 120. The Jets are minus 102. Now, we are going to talk all about the Giants and Jets today, but if you want to make your bets, make sure you do them on FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm excited for this game, but before we get into this game, I have some exciting news to share. Some of you who follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you might have seen it already, but I am going to be on the House of Highlights fan versus hater episode. It should be coming out next week, and I can't wait to share it with you. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this is basically the premise. So House of Highlights does this series called Fan versus Hater, and it's a fan of a team or a player, and then there's 10 haters. And you basically there's 3 different people who get an opportunity to debate the fan. You have 2.5 minutes to prove your case and ultimately try to get the fan to side with you. Now, our fan was an Eagles fan, and there were 10 haters. And guys, it was fantastic. There is nothing like debating an Eagles fan and just trying to back them in a corner. And for us, I would say it worked majority of the time. So he had 8 different claims, and then 3 out of the 10 of us all got up to debate him. So I got 2 opportunities to debate him. I think you guys are going to love it. It's super fun. I had a great time doing it. We were basically all Giants fans except for 2 people. One was a Cowboys fan who was basically on our side for the day, which was also fun. And then there was a guy who was a Pats and a Niners fan. The rest of us were Giants fans, which was great. Actually, sorry, one of us was a Jets fan, but like I said, we were all Eagles haters that day. It didn't matter what team we root for. We were all hating on the Eagles. So when you get to the wide receiver question, that's one of the ones that I jumped in on. And then there's another one that I also jumped in on, proving my point. And it was just, like I said, really fun. We had a great time. So as soon as that's live, I will make sure that I share the link with you. But if you're a fan of House of Highlights or whatever, stay tuned because it's going to be popping up on your YouTube page real soon. So I filmed that on Thursday, and now we are back talking Giants football because they take on the Jets. And like I said, they're the favorites, which the Giants line this year is 5.5 wins is the over and under. And they're obviously not favored to make the playoffs, and they are only favored in 1 game out of the entire season. And it's the Saints. So looking good for us. Anyway, I want to talk about players to watch in the game tonight because I think there's actually going to be some good ones. So let's go ahead and start with the offense. So I think that Jalin Hyatt is going to play. Look, I don't know what is going on with this team and Jalin Hyatt. Obviously, they had their issues last year, but we hear so often from Brian Daboll that every year is very different, right? And they don't always take what happened last year and automatically translate it into this year. So I'm optimistic that the front office and Jalin Hyatt have worked out their issues. I feel like I've seen a more mature Jalin Hyatt from the way that he's gone about his business, the fact that he put on all this weight this offseason. He was basically one of the first people to go out and meet Russell Wilson, to work with him this spring. Obviously, he's dealt with some injuries here and there. I'm assuming that's really the problem, right? I'm assuming they're not just kind of benching him because there's an issue, because honestly, I feel like we would have heard that from him at this point. So I don't know. It's just really disappointing because this wide receiver position is up for grabs. And I just feel like if you're Russell Wilson, you want the best players on the field at all times. And maybe Jalin Hyatt is not the best wide receiver. Obviously, he's not better than Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, or Wan'Dale Robinson, but he's probably the 4th best wide receiver on this team, or at least he was before he got injured and now is missing all this time. But the good news for Jalin Hyatt is that he was back at practice on Wednesday. So that was the Giants-Jets second joint practice. They basically did a walkthrough Thursday, and I think they have off on Friday. So not a very heavy week after those practices, but Jalin Hyatt was not in the team drills on Wednesday. But my assumption at this point is that you're talking about 3 full days later, actually, because the game's not till 7 p.m. So 3 full days, Jalen Hyatt hopefully is rested enough that he gets in on 11 on 11s. Now, Dable said that everyone who's healthy is going to play, which means we're going to see the starters. Now, when I get to the defense, I think there's probably one exception for that. And Neighbors right now is not healthy, so we're not going to see him. But we should see Jalen Hyatt on Saturday, which means he's going to have the opportunity to make some plays. And if he wants a roster spot on this team, or he wants to have a career longer than what he's done so far with the Giants, he needs to show up and he needs to make some plays. And I hope that Russ gives him the opportunity. I still feel like Jalen Hyatt has the tools and the skills to be a decent wide receiver in this league, but he has to prove it on the field. And the words out of his own mouth were, when I get opportunities, I have to take advantage of them. So I'm going to be watching number 13 tonight, and I am optimistic that hopefully he's going to get the ball in his hands and make some plays. Next up is Evan Neal, who's another guy that was dealing with some sort of injury or setback, whatever it was, but he was back at practice on Wednesday. And unlike Jalen Hyatt, he was in the 11 on the 11s, and he was getting snaps with the ones. So we are absolutely going to see a lot of Evan Neal this week, which is good because he missed the first preseason game. And like Jalen Hyatt, he needs all the reps that he can get. So, Neal has done some nice things during camp. He's made some not so nice plays, but I think there's good reason to be optimistic about Evan Neal. He is decent in the run blocking, and he just has to improve on the pass blocking. And maybe tonight we will see some sort of improvement out of Evan Neal from that. And I really hope that that's the case. So I'm really looking at number 73. I'm excited to see Evan Neal out there. We are going to get the starting offense, but I'm sure that once they take some of those guys out, Evan Neal is going to be getting a hell of a lot of reps, and he's probably going to be getting them, honestly, with every quarterback because he needs them. So excited to see what we get out of Evan Neal. Let's see what he's capable of, and let's do it in a preseason game and then, work your way up to the regular season. So on offense, obviously, you guys know who's coming next. If you don't, it's my guy, Turbo Miller, who had an incredible opener preseason game, did a really nice job. He led all of the receivers, guys. He's a running back, and he led all of the receivers with 80 yards in a preseason game. So I'm really excited. I want to see if he can build upon that. I want to see if he's utilized in the same way, if not more, against the Jets. I want to see if he gets first team reps. How many reps does he get with Jackson Dart? Because he got a lot with Dart and Winston last week. We didn't see a ton of Singletary, and I think that'll probably be the same this weekend. And obviously with Scattaboo out, we're going to see a lot of Turbo, and we're probably going to see a decent amount of Tracy with the ones. I don't know if we'll see Tracy with the twos. We'll probably see Singletary and Turbo, but I expect to see a lot out of Turbo this week because we did see so much of him last week. And again, still no Scat means a lot of Turbo, and I love watching him. I think he's fun. He's electric. He's fast. He's got good hands. He's basically got everything that you need from a running back perspective. Now, I did see him miss picking up a blitz a couple times, but he's done a decent job of blocking. So a couple things that I'd like to see him improve upon this week. So 25, eyes peeled on running back Dante Miller, also known as Turbo, because he had a really nice game last week. So excited to see more of him. When it comes to the offense, I think the last player that I'm really excited to watch is Marcus Bowe. When it comes to the starters, like obviously I'm excited to see guys like Wandale and Russ and Slayton, but I don't really think that they're going to get a ton of reps. I think they'll get a full series. Maybe they'll get a little bit more, but I just don't know how much Dable is really going to play him compared to what he did last week, if it's really going to be that much more. And, Dable doesn't tell us anything ever, so no one has any idea, which is just classic. So Marcus Bowe has done a very nice job during camp. Now, when I was at practice on Wednesday against the Jets, I saw some good things out of him. I saw him throw some guys on the ground. I like that he's aggressive. He's tough. I like that he's versatile. Last week, he got reps at left tackle and right tackle, so I'm expecting that to continue Saturday night against the Jets. But he also has had a couple issues with penalties. Now, he's a rookie. He was fifth rounder because Alexander was third, then Scat. I think he was the fifth rounder. So, he's a fifth round pick. I'm not going to jump down his throat if he gets a penalty, but what I noticed during camp was that when he came in with the ones, he was in with the ones with Aaron Stinney. And then they took out Aaron Stinney and they put in Evan Neal at right guard. And on that first play, Marcus Bowe gets a false start. So, I just want to see him be like settled there and not make those kinds of mistakes, because as we all know, the Giants like to shoot themselves in the foot. And this is exactly what happened in the preseason game last week, where James Hudson got 2 penalties on the starting drive and led them to end up only getting 3 points instead of 7. So things that need to be cleaned up across the board, offensive line, stop with the penalties. Please stop. So, same thing from James Hudson, right? Is clean up the penalties. And, Marcus Bowe, I'm just excited to see on both sides of the ball. And maybe he is going to be our swing tackle of the future. I certainly hope. But if he can stack back-to-back games where he's slowly improving, I think we're going to be in good shape. So I'm definitely excited to see him. And then, the real last guy on offense is Jackson Dart, of course. He did a really nice job last week, obviously made some nice throws, didn't have any turnovers, didn't hold on to the ball too long, made smart decisions, was in command of the offense, was in command of himself. He was calm, cool, collected. So I just want to see that continue. If he makes a mistake or throws a bad ball or ends up taking a sack that he shouldn't have taken, something like that, does he remain cool? Can he keep his composure? And can he have that mind like a goldfish where he focuses on the next play? And this is something that we've talked about with Banks and some other players, is that Banks is someone who seems like he can't get out of his head, like he can't get out of his own way if he gives up a play. And you can't do that in the NFL. It's only going to make your day get significantly worse. So, I think we've seen that from Jackson Dart. And like I said, I would like to see that continue. So, I just want to see this offense move the ball down the field, protect the ball, make smart decisions, do not get penalties, clean that stuff up, and score some points. Score some freaking touchdowns is what I want to see from this offense. So I'm looking forward to the game. We're going to talk about the defense, but first we are going to talk about ZipRecruiter. Finding great candidates is as hard as it is for the Giants to score back-to-back touchdowns on offensive drives. You know how challenging it is, and sometimes you don't get enough candidates who have the right skills or experience or whatever it is you're specifically looking for. But that is not the case with ZipRecruiter, because ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you, and they do it fast. Right now, you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/audio. Did you know that you can use ZipRecruiter's pre-written invite to apply message? That way you can personally reach out to your favorite candidates and get them to apply sooner, or even apply at all if maybe they weren't even considering it. Ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack, the touchdowns from those offensive drives. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And you get to try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter. At ziprecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Let's go ahead and talk about the defense, because I know we are all salivating at watching some more Abdul Carter. So last week he only played 6 games. So I'm expecting to see a little bit more of him this week, knowing, again, what we know about the injury thing. And Dable said everyone who's healthy is going to play. So I think we're going to see them slowly work up Abdul Carter a little bit more. Maybe he'll get 10 snaps. Maybe he'll get, 3 drives versus 2 or whatever it was last week. But I do expect all of the starters as a whole to play a little bit more than they played last week. The only exception to that for me is Dexter Lawrence, because Dexter didn't play in the first game, and instead he played in both joint practices against the Jets. He was doing one-on-ones, individual drills, team drills, battles against the offensive line there. So I don't think we're going to see Dexter Lawrence on Saturday. I think maybe we'll see him for 1 or 2 snaps, but he's probably the exception out of all the defensive players. Everyone else I think we're going to see, assuming they are healthy. So obviously, Abdul Carter, can't wait to see more of him. 3 pass rush snaps last week. He got 3 pressures. I can't wait to see him moved all over the field again. And I can't wait to watch the explosiveness again. And, we saw it during these practices at camp, where Justin Fields was like running for his life. And the Jets made some good upgrades to their offensive line. So I'm really curious to see how, in a game scenario, how this defense with Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau continues to put pressure on the quarterback and make him make bad decisions and throw the ball away, which is what Justin Fields was doing at practice. So next up for me is Brian Burns. And for me, it's not so much of like, I'm dying to watch Brian Burns because I want to see him improve on XYZ. For me with Brian Burns, it's the intensity and level of passion that he plays with all the time. One of the beat writers even said that the coaching staff had to tell him to tone it down because they were like, we're not tackling and like you can't be going full steam ahead when everyone else is not on your level. To them, I say, bad. Don't do that. Let Brian Burns have that intensity level. You know what's going to happen is the younger guys are going to learn from him and say, Brian Burns is going at 100% every time. And look at all this money he's making. And he's playing through injuries and he's a leader in the locker room and he calls out bullshit when other players are doing some stupid shit and he's not letting them get away with it. He holds people accountable. Don't you want that from a teammate? I think he is leading by example, and that is the best way to lead, especially for some of these young guys. So that's what I love about Brian Burns, and that's what I want to see from him on Saturday. And I know that we're going to see it. I just can't wait to see it again because he really is fun to watch. He's always full steam ahead. And again, between him and Carter and Thibodeau, they're just fun to watch, all of it. A next guy that I'm excited to watch, who I'm sure we have all talked about a lot at this point, is Darius Alexander. And, you know, he was kind of hit or miss during the Jets practices, but I'm curious to see how he has evolved. What I will say is from when he started to a couple of weeks later, he has slowly improved. It just has been a little bit slow. That's it. The guy was a 3rd round pick. He's not going to start immediately. And look, I think everyone forgets that Dexter Lawrence didn't really pop off until his 3rd or 4th year in the league. Like, we need to have a little bit of patience here, okay? It's like the same people who are like, oh, Jackson Dart had one good preseason game. Let's start him. Let's pump the brakes. How about we do that, okay? Let's take it one day at a time. Don't give up on Darius Alexander, okay? He missed the entire spring because of an injury. And then when he came back to camp, he wasn't even playing all the snaps because they have him on a plan like they do with everyone coming back from injuries. So I think patience is something that this fan base needs to learn a little bit. And I'm not talking about being patient when it comes to wins. Like, it's been a long time that we haven't won football games. We have every right as fans to be pissed and frustrated and upset and angry that this team can't win football games. You have the right to do that. Continue to do that. But do not give up on players because they're not accelerating immediately from the first day that they were at practice. He's not Abdul Carter. He doesn't have that talent level. So let's give him a little bit of time, okay? He's probably not even going to be a starter this year. We have Dexter Lawrence, we have Nacho, we have Roy Robertson Harris. Like, we have other guys who are probably going to end up getting the start over him. Do we all want Darius Alexander to beat out every single one of them and be the starter next to Dexter Lawrence? Absolutely. That's a best case scenario. But let's take it day by day and see if he improves this week against the Jets. So there are some things that he needs to work on. I think, one of the things that he was known for being really good at when he came out of Toledo was that he was good against the run. So with Dexter Lawrence off this field, if he's next to Nacho or Roy Robertson Harris, is he a power player when it comes to stopping the run? That's something that I want to see him improve upon this weekend, especially knowing that Justin Fields is going to be running the ball a hell of a lot, and you got to get him to the ground. So I really want to see that from Darius Alexander this weekend. And, like I said, I think it's just the start with him. He's probably going to get a lot of playing time this week. So number 91, keep your eyes peeled. He's a guy that I'm excited to watch. You guys know who's coming next, okay? We're going to talk about the cornerbacks. It's my guy, Nick Jones, number 31. He is the backup slot corner right now behind Drew Phillips. Now, Drew Phillips was coming off an injury. He was back at practice on Wednesday. So I think we're going to see Phillips a bit with the starters. Again, I don't know how much they're going to play the starters, but Nick Jones is going to get a lot of playing time because once they yank that starting defense off the field, Nick Jones is getting the reps for the slot corner. So, he's a guy who had a really great camp and then not a great preseason game, but then was back at it at camp again this week. So the inconsistency with him is what I've seen and what I've been frustrated with. And I want to see if he can fix that this week, right? You did well against the Jets during practice. Now, can you do it in a game, in a live scenario? That's what I want to see from him. Pick it up a little bit, fix the miscommunications, communicate better, and be better about staying on your guy and making plays, because it looked like he gave up a couple plays last week. So I want to see him work on that. Speaking of the cornerbacks, Tay Banks, who could use the reps, unfortunately is dealing with some sort of injury. He didn't practice on Wednesday, so I'm not sold on him playing on Saturday. And if he doesn't, that means we're going to see a lot of Cordell Flott, because Cordell Flott, who didn't play last week, it's just really unfortunate with these teams. Like, all of the guys who were like, you need the reps, you need to improve, you desperately need these preseason games to get better and see where you deserve to be on this roster, unfortunately, are just not consistently staying healthy. So, last week we don't see Flott. This week we're probably not going to see Banks, but we are going to see Flott. So how's he going to do? I don't know. But I'm optimistic about Flott, because I'm not like optimistic that he's going to be good enough to beat out Banks, but I'm a little worried about Banks. So I don't know. Flott is going to have the chance. Joe Shane said on the broadcast last week that is a real cornerback competition. So, Cordell Flott can only do so much about the natural skills and abilities that he was given, but he also has the opportunity to take it to that next level, because, when you're in the NFL, you never stop learning and you never stop improving, regardless of what skills you already have. You should be able to continue to improve day after day and game after game. So, I just want to see if Flott can be better out there. If he can make some plays on the ball, get some pass breakups. I mean, if the guy gets an interception, he's like, literally everyone's going to be begging for him to be CB2. Like, just get one, man. We already know that Banks can't get him. So, do that and you're good. It's not that simple, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so that's what I would like to see out of Flott. From the defensive line, the biggest one is, obviously, we already talked about Darius Alexander. I'm excited to see a little bit more of Roy Robertson-Harris. And DJ Davidson, I actually think, is a good guy to watch this week, because he would have had a sack during the practices this week. He had a sack in the game last week. So he's someone who, has unfortunately dealt with quite a few injuries, but he's having a really good summer and a really good preseason so far. So can he do it again? Can he get a sack against Justin Fields or whoever their backup is with Tyrod out? I don't know. Would like to see him continue to improve. We need some decent depth on that defensive line outside of Dexter Lawrence and probably Nacho at this point. So I'd like to see if DJ Davidson could step up to the plate and do that. Outside of that, when it comes to the safeties, Dane Belton he's always around the ball and does a nice job with that. But he unfortunately misses some tackles that are just like, how did you miss that? So I would like to see him improve on that. We've watched Micah McFadden over the years really improve upon his tackling skills, and I just need Dane Belton to be next. So I would like to see him do that this weekend. Would love it if he got an interception, since he is someone who's known as a ball hawk, who's always around the ball. Would really appreciate seeing that out of him. Would be great. Tyler Nubin ended practice on Wednesday by not being in pads. Now, I don't know if that's going to affect anything for Saturday. We might just see him for a couple snaps, but Nubin's a guy that in year 2, when it comes to the regular season, I'm really excited to watch. Preseason, the only reason I haven't talked about him all that much is just because I don't know how much playing time he's really going to get. And I don't really think we're going to see him a lot this Saturday. So I think that's it when it comes to the defense. Those are the guys that I'm focused on. It's a lot, but I think it's going to be fun. I'm actually going to live stream the game, guys. So if anyone wants to join me, I will post all of the details in the description here, and I will post it on my Instagram and social channels. I'm going to live stream the game starting at 7 p.m. so we can all watch together and hopefully do a lot more celebrating than anything else. So make sure you guys follow along at New York Giants Fangirl on all social channels. Please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It helps me get in front of other Giants fans. And, we can just build our Giants community of all of us crazy diehard fans who just want to talk about the Giants all the time. So please do that. Please share with your friends. And I will be back next week with a recap of the game. Stay tuned.